Like to open the City of North Pole City Council meeting, regular meeting. This is January 4th, and I hope it's 2023, regardless of what the top of my agenda says. It's not 2022. It's 2023, our first meeting of the year. And the time now is 7:07. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Sure. Mr. Keller,
Here.
Mrs. Clock,
Here.
Mr. Kremer, Mr. Skips,
Here.
Mrs. Welch. Here. Mr. Jacobson,
Here.
Mr. Mayor.
Here, let the record note that Mr. Cromer has been absent tonight, and he has been excused. We now move to Pledge of Allegiance. If we'll stand and take the Pledge of Allegiance, the clerk will lead us.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice
justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing. I'll be glad to do the invocation. Lord, we come together tonight to pay you homage and to pay our public service to our citizens who elected us to do our job and our duty for their community. We do this in the grace of doing it to the best of our ability, and thank you for the wisdom, fortitude, and the blessings that you bestow upon us. For this we say, amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. Go to item 5, approval of the agenda. You'll find out on pages 1 and 2. Madam Clerk, if you want to, you can put it up there to share it if you need to. And so this is an action item for approval. I can get a motion.
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second Skips.
Skips second.
Move to amend.
State your amendment, sir.
The amendment is on old business 12, item A, ordinance 2229, an ordinance of the city of North Pole changing the order of business to move that to consent agenda.
Mhm.
And item 12B, ordinance 22-30, an ordinance of the city of North Pole amending the 2022 year-end budget. And under new business 13, item A, ordinance 2301, an ordinance of the city of North Pole amending the user fee schedule to correct a typo in the ambulance mileage rate.
Second.
Okay, a motion. Did that need to be, I don't think it needs to be repeated. We heard it very clearly. Seconded, made by Jacobson, seconded by Welch. Madam Clerk, would you call the question?
Mrs. Clock,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch.
Yes.
Mr. Skips.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Does anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the motion to amend carries. Now, I need a motion on the amended agenda.
Move to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Skips, Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clock,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Does anyone wish to change their vote? I see no changes. Thank you. The motion as amended. Now we have a new agenda. Thank you. Item 6, action item, approval of the minutes from the 12/19/22 meeting. You'll find that on pages 3 to 8.
Move to adopt, approve.
Approve the minutes from 12/19.
Second.
Made by Jacobson, seconded by Welch. Are there any amendments or anything? Madam Clerk, as you keep up with us, you should be showing what those minutes are in case anybody has a question about them. Because I don't know if there's anyone that saw anything wrong. So call the question, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clock,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes? Anyone wish to change? I see none. Thank you very much. Go to item 7, communications from the mayor. This has been quite a day, quite a week, quite a holiday period from when we met last on 12/19. And you can see there's been some improvements in some of the things here in the chambers, even while we were gone. Things were starting to look up, starting to look like a really nice city. And I was very happy to see the NBC special on the national news. I saw it 3 times on the same day on a Monday with J.R. Lewis at 6:30 in the morning. Our affiliate here at the afternoon news, and on NBC National News 6:30 in the evening. That was very nice the way they portrayed the city of North Pole. And to cut to the quick, I'll just say that last night I was on Elmendorf Air Force Base. We got there about 6:06. We left there about 9:15. The Pacific Air Force Commander, 4-star General Welsbach, was the noted dignitary there, but so was the 3-star general that was there for PACAF slant, Alaskan Air Command slant, 11th Air Force slant, NORAD. He was there. And so, of course, was our distinguished wing commander, Colonel David Birkeland, who hosted the party. It was pretty good. There were a lot of issues that were brought up, namely what our threat is now coming to us from the Chinese. And also that the general take from the generals were that the clowns out there are the Russians. I don't know if I'd portray them that way, but they're being considered that way by our Air Force. And that any one of us who have any pull with our congressional delegation should be asking them to pay more attention to having more airframes built and more airmen hired to fly those airframes, because that is where we're being outdistanced right now. We have a superior pilot, we have superior fighters, but we don't have enough of them. So the attrition rate may very well do us in. We need more tankers. We need KC-46 Pegasus tankers to be able to go to war at supersonic speeds with supersonic 5th generation fighters. 6th generation's in the works still right now. We haven't got those yet, but they're working on them. Those are always like 15, 20-year lead. But they're tucked into some of the remarks from General Welsbach that we should take good note of, is that if he said that if it comes to a point where it doesn't look like we're going to be able to lift the housing to be able to pick up and move and get the housing built that the Air Force needs, he would hope that we would not have anything against him if he makes a decision that some of the housing would be built on Eielson Air Force Base. I'm of the impression that that's not going to happen there anyhow because of the PFOS issues and the high cost of labor, the high cost of Bacon Davis wages. Just as an example, to build a barracks, a dormitory for 98 airmen was going to cost them $97 million. That's crazy. So imagine what housing would cost them. I don't think they really want to go there. But it also tells me that we have to put our foot better forward to let them know what we're trying to do in the south end of our city here. And we're going to have to find a way to sweeten the pot, so to speak. So if I'm going to go to the congressional delegation to say, hey, congressman or congresswoman or senator or whatever, I'm going to go to them and say, how about giving us some lift here to get some water sewer issues done in the Brookside Park area so that it's more amenable to a developer to build in there. That's about it. I did have other comments. I'll wait till the next time in the interest of time. So I'll go to Part 8, council member questions of the mayor, or if there are any, I'll entertain them at this time. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go on to item 9, the communications from department heads. I'll ask Ellie, would you like to go first?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So first off, I would like to say that unfortunately I did not pass my SHRM testing. It is graded on a scale, the lowest score being 100, highest score being 200. You must get a 200 in order to get certified. I got 190. There were some other circumstances around it, but I do believe without question that I would be able to pass it on the next round, which is in June. I'm not allowed to take it during this open window because they won't allow me to. they won't allow you to take the test twice in one window. Is what they're telling me.
So
So
when is the next window?
the next window is
May,
May
Mhm.
15th
Yeah.
through July 15th.
Oh, okay.
So, and I will be on maternity leave March 1st until June 1st. So I would like to take that if you guys will accept that in June.
yes, that would be most acceptable.
Otherwise, the only other thing I have, I've been working on a few things, and then the one item that I have bringing forward, I assume you guys want me to wait until that comes forward, or we can,
Could wait, sure.
is there?
Any questions for HR, for Ellie? Ellie, I'm going to ask you something real quick. You don't have to go down this path, but I think in all fairness to you, you should describe what the proctoring process was for you to take that test, because I'm upset about it.
I am upset about it too. I really prefer not to do that in an
Okay.
open forum. though.
That's why I say
I'll be glad to answer questions outside of open. forum.
outside of the meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next up, Danny Wallace. If Danny, you want to come for the three hats that you wear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just going over some of the things for our three departments. For the building department, we're still working with the contractors to get their our inspection contractors to get their contracts signed for this year. Those went out again today, and we anticipate those getting signed in the next couple of weeks. The bottom line with building department, it's slow during the winter certainly, but everything's on track. For public works, there were no snow plowing or ice complaints over the holidays. It was fairly quiet. And the coordination with DOT, we really do have a good contact with them, whether it's text or phone calls, as far as updating them on requirements that the city and areas that the city deems that they need to be that they need to know about or to adjust. And again, that relationship continues to go well so far. We've been participating in the Fairbanks area surface transportation plan updates, the fast updates. Our Dochi Bridge Beaver Springs project is on track. It still needs final approval. But if it does get the final approval, which we think will occur this month, you'll see planning on 23, 24, and then final construction in 25. And that's actually 2 years sooner than it was originally proposed. So again, that area which continues to deteriorate will get the attention it needs. We're still working with options for Hubbard Construction to remove some hard pack potentially in February. We haven't done that previously in the middle of the winter, but we anticipate that that's going to make it easier when the breakup comes if we do one round of removing hard pack. And we've kind of looked at the budget, and I think our budgeting supports that effort, probably sometime in February, but I'll work with Cody on that. Arctic Fire inspected the fire extinguishers here, City Hall, Police Station, and Public Works. They do that each year, but again, we focus on that, and again, that did occur. And then finally, for Public Works, Crowley Fuels has assumed the heating oil contract. They have not delivered that we know of yet, but that transition has occurred this month, so they'll be taking over the contract, and we'll see how that goes. For utilities, there were no significant utilities issues over the holidays. Also, things were quiet on both sides. And then the utility rate increase notices will go out this month. I have a copy of the notification, which will go out in the bills this month, and they'll go out again next month. They're on track to be effective March 1st. And I know that we'll talk about this a little bit later. Next week, we'll also begin a series of discussions on potential ways to address the annual sewer funding deficit. As you know, during the budgeting process, every year we have a difference between what the sewer takes in and then what the expenses associated. So we are looking at strategies, again, working with the mayor and Paul Trissel and our budgeting folks on that. For Moose Creek, as we noted at the last meeting, the period of performance for this has been extended to June 30th. And that we're working with them on the budgeting and what it takes to get us from here to there. I'm not sure if the project will actually end at that date. We hope it will, but there is some things that we want to make sure and hold the contractors to make sure that every single thing that can be done is done prior to handing over the project to the city. DEC did actually, just today, they provided the final approval to operate for the Moose Creek project. So we are able to accept this into our system legally. Again, the Moose Creek has been they were operating as the utilities were built out, but we do have approval from the state of Alaska. So at least on that end, everything's good. The final thing for Moose Creek, Melanie Swanson, in her role as a utility account specialist, has now assumed lead on Moose Creek accounts, still getting a great support from the budget folks. But she is working those accounts. One final item, the Fairbanks North Star Borough does a trails challenge throughout the borough. And actually just this year, they put up sign number 11 in the Fifth Avenue Beaver Spring Nature Trail along that area. It's supposed to be a mystery where the actual sign's at. But what we anticipate is potentially you're going to see some more traffic on that trail, which they have plowed this year. So just one additional thing for the city and for the community. That's really all I have, subject to questions from the council members.
Yes, I want to comment that Joan Herman did get in touch with me after you and I talked earlier today. I have not responded to her yet, and I may not tomorrow, but I will.
Joan is our grant, Mary Jones,
Yeah.
our grant writer.
Right.
A potential one that we
grant
looked
writer.
at as
She wanted to know, had we made the decision yet? But she's getting things off her plate as we speak. But I haven't responded to her yet, and I would rather spend more time looking at her and the other person from what's called Two Bears Environmental Consulting to see which way we want to go. And I'm gonna leave a good bit of that to you. We may flip a coin on that before it's over with, but I think it's going to be more based on who's got the stronger team, who's closest to us. And, you know, there's a lot of grants out there. The window for putting in for them are coming in, a lot of those by March 31st. They would typically be October 31st, but this year they've been extended to March 31st. So we need to do that. So be prepared to discuss that. And are we going to be having a series of discussions with your utility department coming up in January, February? Aren't we having some Zoom meetings or whatever? Am I correct from what I see in my calendar?
yes,
Some 1 hour snippets here and there.
right, correct.
Okay, you want to describe that to the council, that's all I can say.
Well, and again, when you and I talked, I initially alluded to the city water main as a topic of discussion. Those discussions that we had set up previously, actually, I went back and looked, those were focused on the sewer deficit.
Yes.
So we've got those sewer deficit discussions and again, trying to figure a way forward. Certainly when we were working with the grant writers, whichever ones are chosen, we'll work with those folks on potential solutions for the city water main and a potential way ahead. So we'll look at both of those key issues. And again, the 15% initial design study was finished by PDC and they have presented that to us. So we do have that background data on the water main and what potential options are for that. So.
Any questions for Mr. Wallace? Any concerns? Yes, Jeff.
With the interest in new housing construction, have you seen any effort or evidence of building permits to build houses or apartments in the city limits this year? Has anybody come forward with that?
We haven't seen anything that wasn't already on our radar. I think that Rick Watson and Stepping Stone Construction had said that this next summer that they're going to build a number of units. We haven't seen those permits from him yet, but we anticipate those. But there's not been anything that the mayor hasn't spoken about, or that nothing that hasn't been already known about that came before us.
So where's Stepping Stone proposing to build houses?
Exactly. I'm not sure. I know that he is. Go ahead.
Up in the loop, the Striker loop and all.
Oh,
where he's
yeah,
already
to
gonna
build
start.
out those other areas that are not built on.
Up by the high school.
Oh, okay.
Where he's already at.
All
To
right.
finish that whole
Yeah.
area up there in Patriot,
Right.
up in Stillmeyer, whatever.
Bill Meyer Estates, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Appreciate it. Chief Heineken, you look interested.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello, Chief.
Just a couple things from the fire department. I'm happy to report that our annual Christmas caroling went off without a hitch. Everything went well. We got pretty good feedback from the citizens, so as always, we're happy with that and plan to continue that tradition for many years. So 2022, has come to an end, and we kind of watch our figures and stats and what happened, and it was another busy year for the fire department. Not quite as busy as the year before. We ran 1,404 emergency calls, which is down, just about 50 calls from the year prior. We kind of actually early on in the year, I was expecting us to be down over 100 calls, and that was for a couple different reasons, primarily being the year before 2021 in that fall, we had a really big upswing in COVID patients that we transported the fall of 2021. So that significantly impacted the 2021 stats. And then we had an individual that we would run the ambulance on 50 to 70 times a year that moved out of district. So we knew that person had moved. So we knew those numbers were going to come down. So between those two, I'm actually looking at this as it was actually a gain. When we take those two factors out of it, we were busier than we were the year before when you remove those two factors. So the last thing I have is just a general reminder to let everybody know that it is winter time and the fire department actively tries to keep our fire hydrants clear of snow. Time is very important when we need fire hydrants. There's no time for digging them out. So just a reminder to citizens, if you have a hydrant next to your house, adopt your hydrant. If you plow your sidewalk, plow your driveway, take that shovel and shovel your hydrant. It would help us tremendously. So just a reminder, if you can help us out, at least don't bury them when you are plowing. That's the least we ask, is just don't bury them. So, and that's all I have this evening. I'm gonna take questions.
Who's got questions for Chief? Go ahead.
One more comment. We did definitely enjoy the fire truck coming around. I only saw it about 3 or 4 times, and it was not as loud as it was last year. It was much more perfect. So thank you to the teams that were running it and decorating it and for getting that through. Thank you.
Definitely, I'll pass it on to the crew.
Yes, Mr. Skips. And
Yeah,
and if I don't see you right away, just say Mr. Mayor and I'll
Okay.
know you're trying to get me.
So the update on the truck, do they get to do that like every month or?
It's been coming pretty random. So it just depends. Right now, they're kind of stalled waiting for the rear ends to arrive for that truck.
So probably as they get building, then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, here's a major thing. We'll take.
They'll take
and send.
pictures and send us on. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm hoping this Friday, he seems to send them on Fridays to see another one. The last correspondence I had though, is they are still waiting for the rear ends to arrive so they can actually,
Start putting it
assemble the
together.
chassis on it, and they really can't start putting the cab and everything any further together until the chassis is ready. So it is delaying it a few weeks, there's no doubt, but I expected it. It is nothing to worry about. Okay, thank you.
First of all, I did miss our last meeting in December, but I was able to be at the Fairbanks City Council chambers when Chief Heineken's son was promoted at the Fairbanks Fire Department. So congratulations to you and to your son for that career achievement
Thank you.
and continuing the service in the fire. Also want to extend personal condolences to the loss of your father, Brent Heineken, recently. He was a pillar of faith and service in our community, and my heart and thoughts go out to you and your family.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
My only thing is you can turn up the music next year.
Up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that is the one comment we did get, is it was quieter than last year, so we might adjust it up just a little bit.
Yeah, maybe I'll put out a sign,
Yep.
turn up the volume or something. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate the report and God bless you through this new year. Ms. Fogarty, why don't you go next so I can make Chief Dutra wait?
I really don't have anything to really report. I can tell you that since the last meeting that we've sent out and processed 132 business license as of the last meeting. And of course, it's the 4th of January, so we're working on payroll and closing that up. We'll be working to do W-2s as soon as that's done. So kind of busy time of year for us.
How's things going with Tyler? That's what I want you to describe. Go, and we'll ask about, have you had anybody from Altman Rogers get in touch with you?
Yes, actually
Please
today.
explain that to the council.
I had an initial phone call today with Altman and Rogers. I sent them our last audit. They're gonna review that. He'll put a contract together for us to take a look at sometime next week. And then after that, we'll do a Zoom meeting with the person that's probably going to advise us, works in Idaho. They let their people work wherever they want to, just to keep people that are good employees to them. So I'm sure everything that we can do is doable over the phone or internet or,
Are they going to be our new auditors?
no, they're just advisors,
Advisors.
right?
What,
So,
what we cannot do, when we came up with Alliance Accounting, Cook Hagenberg merged with Kohler Schmidt and Hutchinson. We used to use Kathleen Thompson for an advisor. And we can't now because that's a conflict of interest. You
Right.
can't have someone who works for your auditing company. So that's why we have to reach out to Altman and Rogers. I reached out to them during the AML Conference of Mayors.
right, I told this gentleman that as well.
Yeah, who was it you talked to?
Steve, his name was Steve, last name, I think Weber.
No, I didn't know him. No, it's not who I talked, but anyhow, they know that we're on their radar.
Mhm.
Thank you.
They do quite a bit of consulting. He told me they're working with Cordova, Kotzebue and Homer.
Okay.
So they consult with those groups. He said some of them, I'm thinking probably Kotzebue, they actually do some of their accounting work for them. So,
Things are becoming more complex.
right. And I told him we just really need kind of some help with our audits, some advice, and then things come up throughout the year that we would probably talk to them about.
Any questions for Tricia? Thank you very much, Tricia. Appreciate that. We'll keep you around when we talk about the sales tax here in a bit. So now Chief Dutra. Bet you got a paper for us. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so as my notes state there, just the status of things, got back from the conferences in Anchorage and I realized that there are a lot of agencies out there with a lot of problems. And, I forecasted this would come when we got those 3 folks from FPD, and it seemed like, this big whirlwind, windfall that we got, but that wasn't going to last. And I knew that. And we've tried to improve our recruiting and outreach, and we got a couple other things we're working on, and I'll talk about that. But just kind of give you kind of an outlook on what we're looking at. So Detective Lockwood just sent his notice for March 1st. He will be his last day, actually 28th of February, but be gone March 1st. We do have that out for advertisement, that detective position. We do have 2 candidates so far. So we'll see how that goes. One of them does qualify. The other one doesn't. Looks like it has enough qualifications, but nonetheless, that's a good sign. So we have a likelihood of filling that position, which would be nice. Someone with experience. Sergeant Tibbetts is in the final phases to be hired on with the Washington Department. And we have a couple of folks in the hiring process, and McBroom is due to retire in May. So what this puts us to is basically 5 patrol officers going into the summer with the Chino Lakes position. It's ugly. So that's down 4 if we don't get something going. The recruitment video is done. At least the draft is done. It's, I think there's a little bit more tweaking. I don't know if the council would like to see it. I did send it to the clerk. You're welcome to view it if you'd like to see it. It's a little different, it's a little slow, and then it speeds up, and then it kind of speeds. But if you want to, Madam Clerk, you can play that maybe for the council. Please. It's the first. Yeah, and it's under 5 minutes if you guys want to time me on this. I think it's about a little under
fine.
5, but
We need to see it.
Yeah.
We need to get on board with you. Any more volume?
The action shot. Oh my gosh, SWAT team.
Like that.
There you go.
There you go. Who
That's-
did the production?
That's part for the last.
Who did that, Chief? The
I can't
production
remember
of
the name of the company. I forget. I don't remember the name of the company now. If you ask.
the local company?
Yeah, it's a local company.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's about our fourth or fifth rendition, and we mixed it up with some of the other recruitment videos we watched. Kind of a personal touch to it, not so crazy. You know, it's a hard thing to come up with and do. It's not easy because you got to take out a lot of things. That looks bad. Take that out. You know, and add that, add this. But I don't know. We could take parts of that and you use whatever we want from it. We also have about 2 or 3 other 30-second spots that I'll get to you later and show you. But they're kind of nice. It's just a soft recruitment video. I mean, we don't have a multi-million-dollar budget like Dallas PD. You know, it does some pretty high speed intense videos that are pretty neat. But I think for the money we spent, it turned out okay with what we needed for. So once we have that in the 36 spots, we'll start blasting that out on Facebook and targeting places that we think are good recruitment opportunities and go from there. So that's the plan. And then also I was gonna say so let's go put the minimum. So we're talking about 12-hour shifts. We're talking about possibly putting officers on 12-hour shifts, going to increase costs and definitely going to increase stress. I know FPD is already doing that right now with some of their folks. It's about the only place you can go when you end up with so few people on patrol, less backup, one person mannings, that kind of thing. So I do, as I mentioned on here, I said, we do need to change the way we attract people and keep officers. If we don't change, we're going to end up with like some of these other places, just not pulling in people. You know, we don't offer enough of this or that or whatever. It has to be a myriad of things. Some places I think you can't change the location. I mean, the Kenai is the Kenai. It'll always be the Kenai. They pay well. and it's the Kenai. So that those two things make them, keep people for a long time, and that's an interesting attraction. I think we have a lot of things here to offer. There are a lot of things like I told you guys about the last couple of meetings ago. There's some ideas that we have, and I'm going to present those to you about what our path is as a city and as a department. And it's not the same path as the fire department or the utilities department. It's not, we're not the same anymore. We are now fighting against a market that does not attract police officers, and that is scary and disturbing. So we have to do everything we can to make it attractive. And for those few resources that are out there, we want them to choose us as a place to come work. And we want this to be a destination department, not just another department seeking a warm body. So that's my goal in this next presentation to you. Show you the video, get you understand the significance of where we're at. It's not always about money. So we'll give you some new ideas, and hopefully we can all come together and come up with a good solution. And I think that we can. We're always adaptable as a city. All the years I've been here, council's always adapted to adversity. So I'm excited about that. That being said, we are working with. We did a tour today with Convergence Technology to help finish off the interior paging system and radio system, which is an ongoing project for the last 6-8 months. So that's all I got.
If I have a question for you, and then this won't be comfortable. I'm not trying to pick your brains either, but I know we've had to talk about it the past few years. If and when McBroom retires and we don't get the requisite number of people to keep enough on patrol, what time frame do we have to get out of the contract or waylay the contract with the Chena Lakes Recreation Area?
I think we're committed.
Well, what if we don't have the people to maintain our own city? Can we then go to somebody that has already been retired and bring them back on to do that?
We are talking about that.
That's what we need.
We've come up with some ideas that maybe we may be able to swing that position into a non-PERS position, part-time contract.
Yeah.
That someone would be very attractive to a lot of folks who are retired now. So
We may have to.
since
do
it is
that.
a contract, it has a slightly different. And I'm not the expert. I know Chief Heineken is an expert on making positions that are non-PERS positions, but yeah, we've thought about everything about that is one option.
We may
it's on the
have to
table.
do that.
We may have to, and it's concerning, so getting to a place where we don't want to be.
We would probably have to pull that throttle in the next 45 to 60 days, would we not, to make it possible?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay,
We were already working on it, so
Thank you,
we'll
sir.
come back to you guys on that.
just have to go over that. How about questions for the chief? Comments? Mr. Jacobson's up.
You had mentioned that you have 2 detective candidates. Are they in-house candidates or new employees?
Outside,
Okay, so that we're going to be adding 2 instead of
correct.
subtracting. I liked your recruitment video. I think it sends out a positive message that will attract the right candidates that will mesh with our workload, style, and location. So I think it sends a very good message.
Thank you.
Who else? Somebody else. Mrs. Welch. I knew you couldn't go without asking.
No,
about
I just kind of curious on all the, been hearing about that there was some crime going on and some things happening here in North Pole, just from listening to Facebook and stuff like that. How are we doing? I know you don't have numbers and stuff like that, but how did we fare? I know the chief over there probably had some issues with fires and other stuff like that over the holidays. How did we fare over the holidays?
Very quiet. I mean, if you read the paper, it was a Christmas light themed issue that was seemed to be the big prominent issue in our community. But yeah, there was really nothing. So nothing to speak of, nothing major that we had going on. So good. And I'll get the year-end stats to you at the next council meeting. We just had a lot going on last couple of days. I was gone yesterday and then back in the office today, hitting the ground running after the holidays, and want to make sure we massage those stats and make sure not massage them, so to speak, but make sure that they're accurate. And you have to do a lot of vetting, especially annual statistics, to make sure that all the other data that we turn in for FBI, UCR, and meshes with what we have, and something didn't get missed, so I have to make sure that's done right. That's a better way to say it.
Anyone else? So did your mom have a good trip?
Still here.
still here. So she
She was
has,
on Friday, yeah.
yeah, she could have come and saw you tonight, see? Yeah. All right. Thank you, Chief.
sir.
Appreciate your report. Oh, I guess that just takes us to our clerk. Madam Clerk, you're on.
Good evening, you guys. So I don't have a whole lot tonight. Now that it's a new year and we've got a new budget all set, I'm looking forward to setting up some trainings. I feel like I haven't done a training in a really long time. It's only been like a month, but still it's weird. And then I will have a website update for you guys at the next meeting. I'm meeting with Revise on Monday so that we can talk about where we're at and what's happening. That's all I got.
Oh, you've got more than that.
Do
Because I spoke with you today about something that we need to do with the council by next meeting. So you might as well mention it to them, or you want me to.
Okay, so the next meeting, I'm gonna have the committee signups for everybody. So start thinking about committees, being the borough rep, et cetera, et cetera.
Borough reps and festival committees and how we enforce our beautification around our city, code violations, ethics committee. We have some people that are already plugged into those, but not enough to fill the whole thing out. So, and we'll probably cover that over 2 meetings. We'll start off in the January meeting after Martin Luther King Day. We'll finish it up on February 6th. And anything else with, were you trying to get some PIO training in there?
Yes, I'm looking for some kind of bigger PIO training. All of the ones that I've been finding are just little half-hour snippets here and there. I haven't really found anything with too much of a substance. So I'm on the hunt for that.
Very well, appreciate that. And so we'll keep in track with you here as you move along to getting your certified municipal clerk credentials. Thank you for putting up the good hard fight. Yes.
So when we talk about the committee assignments in our next meeting,
Meeting. Mhm.
will you provide perhaps a description of responsibilities for this different committees so that we can understand?
I'll do the best I can, but like festival committees would be anything to do. For example, I'm glad you asked that. We're coming up on our 70th birthday, the 16th of January. We should have some kind of a birthday party that people will enjoy and our citizens will like. The Code Enforcement Committee, Mr. Skips, you've been on that before. The mayor's on all the committees, whether he likes it or not. But the Bed Tax Committee, I think you know what's involved with that. Some of the other committees are not for the members of the council, they're for citizens, like Ethics Committee and all that. So, we can go back into code if we have to. I'll have the clerk research all that and see what is required of each one of those. So I think we know what's on the Bed Tax Committee. I think we know what's a festival committee when we do things of that nature. And this year was the first time that people came forward and asked specifically for bed tax money to be used for the 4th of July festival. So we could actually have more things going in that way. But give an example, the problem we're having with one individual off of Fifth Avenue, that's one of those code enforcement deals. Okay, so when we have codes to how we have to keep our property, when we see that it's not being done and our police cite them, then we have to have us sit on that committee if it's not, and that person came before us. And I think they have what, till June? Is that right, Chief? On Fifth Avenue. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, he's got till June to have his thing together. And if he's not, then we have to make a decision as a committee how we deal with it. So, and so we'll see what we can have the clerk put together for you in time for the second meeting here in January.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we ask you, Madam Clerk, as we move on here, do we have any ongoing projects report? Can't hear you, Madam Clerk.
I sorry, I was contemplating the question. I don't believe so.
Okay. Citizens' comments, any citizens wanting to speak on items not on the agenda, limit 5 minutes per citizen?
No, we don't.
We have no one for that. So thank you. Item 11 is over with. Item 12, we already consented on both items of old business, correct? So what we're going to call in the future, I hope you fix your template to call it unfinished business. So now we go to item 12. I hope
13B.
it's 13. Yeah. See, we got this thing. I'm looking at 212s. Item 13. The ordinance 22-2, an ordinance of the city of North Pole amending the professional development step salary increases for our city of North Pole employees. Would you pull up pages 14 and 19? Is where we're going to go to that increases. Increases up there in that ordinance is misspelled, by the way. There's an A missing in that big bold black word up there at the top. Okay. However, with that in mind, I think Miss Ellie's going to talk to us about this one item, please. Thank you, Ellie.
So I believe Melissa also sent you all the supporting documentation behind this also. In the original, hey, Melissa, can you scroll down to the original? This is the current descriptions. There's not a set number for each thing. There's not really a lot of information behind them. And honestly, they're kind of hard to keep track on. So since this is the current way it's set up, there's not a lot we can do, but put it into a uniform for each staff member that's eligible. The idea behind these, from my understanding, is to encourage our staff to continue education to improve the work staff. So I'm requesting that we change it to these, which allots four sections per each position. And with those, whenever we put our policy manual together, it will get those descriptions and documentation that the department heads have put together for their staff. That was provided in the second attachment Melissa sent you all.
Is the second attachment up here? for us to look at?
It's not included in the packet. It was second separately from the packet. Melissa, it's pretty long, but Melissa, do you have that up or available?
Y'all want to go through that?
I mean,
I think
it's,
we should.
it's quite a few pages. It's up to you guys.
The one that's 12 pages.
It looks like this.
Yeah.
Please go through it, Madam Clerk.
Yeah, I got it.
And like I said, each department went through this to set up what their expectations of their staff would be.
I really appreciate, through the chair, I'm sorry, Mayor,
Yes.
these descriptions, because when I first saw the ordinance, I didn't know what that meant and how they'd get to those. So this is very thorough and comprehensive, and I agree, it really does encourage the staff to further their education and training and rewards them with, step increases. So I appreciate this effort to really make what we have more concise and easy to follow and consistent. So thank you.
And I had the department heads helped a lot with finding the avenues that were best suited.
Please stop on accounting, go back one page. So what's the difference between 1, 2, 3, and 4? Just another county clerk 2, 3, whatever. Is it just another 8 continuing education credits and just more 16 and 20 more hours of something documented in Tyler? Or
Yes,
in case we don't have Tyler, something equivalent to Tyler?
correct.
Okay. I don't know. I guess as we go along, we might develop that a little bit further to be a little more definite about what we're looking for in each of those positions.
Yes, and that is the nice aspect of the way that it's currently set up in code, is that if we have it set so that these have the 4 designated steps, as the city grows and the requirements of the city grow, then we can adjust, the directors can adjust what their expectations to
They can
help their
define
staff.
what goes with
Yes.
each of those. That's what I
So
want to make sure.
That's why they're separate,
Okay.
because that way we have that ability to
Plug and play.
grow.
Yeah, grow by plugging in what we want out of each of those positions.
Yes.
Okay, can you go down further, Madam Clerk? Slow down there. So so these accounts receivable, accounts payable are different from our general ledger accountants then? So back on accountant 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's like the general ledger accountant. whereas these are accounts receivable, accounts payable. Okay.
Correct. That's correct.
Just because I'm not sure everybody on the council understands there's a difference. They just see the word account, they think everyone's an accountant, when in fact they're not. Okay, they may work in the accounting department, but they may not be necessarily an accountant. Thank you.
Mayor, Mrs. Welch had her hand
I
up.
try to see that. I thought it was Skip's whose hand was up.
Oh, I-
Oh, yeah,
It was?
Skip's.
Sorry.
I was about
I
to say,
just
Ed-
thought there's a typo on Public Works Assistant. It goes from Public Works Assistant 1, 2, and then it's 2 again, so it should be 3.
I could fix that
It should
easily.
be on page 11.
Thank you, David. Mrs. Welch, did you have a question or comment?
No, I
Okay,
answered my own question.
okay, good. Yeah. So I see, no, excuse me, just a second. I do see that once you get to public assistant, three is listed as 2, but you mean 3. You have 3 years experience as a public work. The other one was 2 years experience. Okay.
Well, and previously there were actually only is that correct, Annie? There were only 2 available for Public Works without a whole lot of information. And so that, like I said, everybody worked really hard to put these together with the backup to,
Can you go down back to public works again, slow down? So what is a 10-hour or a 30-hour training card?
Oh, sorry.
What is
OSHA?
that training? OSHA.
OSHA
training? What
has
is that?
separate trainings. Certain ones, like I believe the 30, if you get the 30-hour, you can actually be a trainer.
Okay,
So if one of our guys had the 30-hour, and I believe at one point they did, I don't know that they still do. Had that, then he could actually train the rest of the staff on OSHA.
how does that fit in with our insurance, like with AMLJIA or our insurance liability? That
I couldn't give that information at this time.
you don't know, okay, we look into that.
Yes,
make
I can
sure.
do that.
And what's on the little bit down, public works system 4?
So
Hey, you have a certification as a public work professional manager. I bet you, Jeff, you know about that, don't you?
Oh.
Huh?
We don't do water and sewer infrastructure, so we don't have those,
Public works, we're
right?
still on public works, we're not water sewer. We're talking about a public works assistant. What is that certified public? It says, I know it says infrastructure, but so that's a little confusing to me. One says a certified public works professional management. CPWP-M.
these are actually different things available, certifications that are available for people who work in public works infrastructure, such as a lot of times your public works people deal with building and things along those lines.
Once manager.
Yes.
What that third one is.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Because ideally, we're setting ourselves up for these staff members to be able to take over when someone retires. That would be in our best interest for them to be trained, and then we're setting our city up for success.
Ms. Welch, I know you have your hand up. Go ahead.
So my question is, how do these, I know they are put together by the department heads, so they should be very much particular to that. How will this help in the recruiting process? Is
And
this something that will easily carry over for, you can take these things and say, oh, I'm taking somebody from Fairbanks and I can apply those or equivalency or something like that to that?
Yes, the nice thing about that aspect of it for recruitment is that if someone, okay, so say for my position, we're going to use that as the example because I can give you the most information on that one. For my position, say you hadn't hired me in particular spot I am,
Mhm.
and I already had these certifications, I already had my bachelor's degree, things like that, that would actually push them up the scales. Instead of starting at year 1 with the city, you could actually be pushed up to a higher rate of pay. So that's a wonderful recruitment option. Because if you can increase the rate of pay that you give your the person you're planning on hiring, and treat them with the respect that they've worked that hard to get those. We all know that the SHRM, or at least my opinion of the SHRM certification is globally known. It's extremely difficult. it takes a lot of work to do it, and it takes a lot of time too, along with the bachelor's degrees or master's degrees. All of these deserve the recognition. So it allows us to give that recognition and bump them up on the scales with documentation showing that we had a reason to do it, so we can keep a consistency also. So it is very helpful in the recruitment aspect of things.
In time?
So to me, it kind of puts a target on the wall. And for everybody to understand, like, in order to receive promotion, in order to receive step ups, like, these are the things. So it keeps both people accountable, keeps the city accountable, keeps the employee accountable.
Absolutely.
And that also kind of sounds like kind of avoidant of some situations we've had this year.
Yes.
So fantastic.
Thank you, Ellie.
Good job.
Who would like to introduce this?
Move to introduce ordinance 22-02, an ordinance of the city of North Pole amending the professional development step salary increases for the city of North Pole employees.
Second.
Motion by Jacobson, seconded by Welch. Any discussion necessary?
We need to, Mr. Mayor, do we need to specify? Do we need to specify the small typographical
No,
and stuff
we'll
like
fix
that? That would
those.
be fixed.
Madam Clerk, you be aware of fixing those typos. No, we know what they are. We have that on the record. And I know that based on what the clerk told me, it's why I haven't asked, is there any public testimony? Because I don't see anybody here in the audience or waiting online. So there's no public testimony. So Madam Clerk, would you like to call the question?
Absolutely. Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clock,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Is anyone going to change their vote? I don't see anyone changing their vote, so that's moved on to the next meeting in January. We now go to item C, ordinance 2303, an ordinance of the city of North Pole to amend Title 13 for our public services utility rates for the year 2023, being found on pages 20 to 21. And we have our Director of City Services, Mr. Danny Wallace, to go over that with us. Go ahead, Danny.
Previously, we've discussed some of this as part of the budget. The bottom line is that expenses have increased, certainly between energy, utilities, and the all of the expenses required to operate this type of system. We have not had a rate increase since 2019. We went back and did the analysis. This is an interim step to try to make sure that we attain at least some semblance of revenue or some revenue stream while supporting the continued operation of the city's utilities. This rate increase, as you see, is shown is 0.002 cents per gallon. Again, moving it from just under 2 cents to 2 cents per gallon per customer, and that is both for water and sewer. So it will affect folks on both sides. It also includes a fire hydrant meter flushing fee, goes from 3 cents to 3.15 cents per gallon. We do have an information sheet that will go out in the next bill. And I don't know if it was included in the packet, but I have a copy of it here. If they don't, the information sheet that, okay. Okay, but it basically talks about the history of why we're increasing rates. And then if folks, especially seniors 65 and older, are still eligible for certainly a significant rate decrease. And then also the information sheet shows the previous cost and the current cost of utility rates. So I'll open it up for questions.
Yes, Mrs. Welch. CEO. I thought it skips.
No, that was me.
Yeah, this is like playing David, go ahead.
I'll go like this.
I didn't know how she got a tattoo.
I had a who pays for the fire hydrant meter flushing?
Generally, that's contractors that do that as part of their, and again, it's just another fee that's out there, but that's generally for construction.
Why would I? But contractor makes sense.
Yeah, and actually, I actually caveat that in the information sheet that says generally used by contractors.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Anton,
I just had one question. With the increase in cost of actually producing the water and the sewer, does this get us close to where we were fraction wise from 2019, or is it just we're slowly getting it to that point?
Our water services generally come in as gaining more revenue than our expenses.
Healthy.
It's on the sewer side that we're always under. This rate increase again is not the same as what occurred in 2019. Again, this is about a 10% increase across the board, and pretty much again 2019 was a similar increase. If you go back even further, there were 30 to 40% increases in rates throughout. Previously, but again, this does not address all of our problems. But again, it allows us to continue to operate, continue to maintain that revenue stream to support the infrastructure.
Thank you.
Danny, I have a specific question, it has to do with our meters. Because in the older part of the city, we still have the old type meters. We don't know how accurate they are anymore. What do you suppose, how do you suppose we can get new meters installed? Who should be paying for those? Should the customers, the water customers pay for them, or because I remember with Mr. Butler, we were talking about at the very least with labor included, you're talking about $600 a meter. These are the ones that the cell towers read and all that.
They are, and believe it or not, we did actually put in for a grant through a state revolving fund grant for meter replacement. They came back and provided some funds for that again, the city is not committed to yet, but we did explore that option.
Yes.
And we were approved for it. To address those old meters right now and talking with Paul Trissel, we don't see it as a significant issue because we do have the ability to monitor those old meters, but as they get to the 15 to 20-year-old mark, they do need to be replaced.
Yeah.
So that's one other thing we're looking at. But again, there is state assistance available to help with that. And the only issue, it's 50% matching for some of the state assistance. So again, as far as going forward, we do have, and many of the customers already know this, there's things that they can sign up for that has intense metering and overwatch on the meters. And if there's water leaks and things like that, I actually have access to the system. I do monitor that. I look for things that come up outside of the norm as far as water leaks. Our staff looks at takes a hard look at it every single day. And that's why our utilities folks are actually working. They worked over Christmas. They worked over the holidays. They look at these things. They come in and they do that metering. So the bottom line is that the meters are aging. We have a potential way forward for that. And again, some of those do need to be replaced. But at this time, we're not at a critical juncture where we have a system-wide issue with meters right now.
Okay. Any more questions, Mrs. Welch?
So the meters that we're putting in now, the new meters and stuff like that, are the ones that you can shut off to a loop, right? If somebody's not.
They have some of those capabilities, and it depends where it's at and which ones we're putting in. Again, the Moose Creek are the newer meters that we've got, but even with those, we've had communications issues, things like that. So it is something that we do have that capability of shutting off systems and or powering down, decreasing the water flow so it continues to operate, but at a minimal level. So
To make sure that we are actually being paid for what we are providing to people.
Well, and if there's tampering, if we have evidence of things going on, we have the ability to go in and we can shut them down remotely so that the pipes don't freeze, but we can actually go in also and physically and manually cut off the water if need be. If there's a circumstance where the bill isn't being paid, or if the houses are abandoned, we have the ability to do that too. So.
Inside the house or at the edge of the house or whatever.
We've got procedures for both, whether it's actually has to be a manual shut off where I actually date up and disconnect the pipes, or we actually can do it remotely. That isn't a capability that we have everywhere. It's in some of the newer meters. So.
That it, Danny? So
I got one.
you got one. Go ahead, Jeff.
Earlier in the budget presentation, there was some concern about dipping into the fund balance to cover the operation expenses. So with this 10% increase, what kind of projection are you looking at for dipping into revenue fund balance?
I think that the water is going to continue to operate on the, again, a positive revenue stream. I think that our sewer is going to continue to operate on the negative side, where we will have to dip into the enterprise fund reserves. So certainly not the general fund reserves, but the enterprise fund reserves. I think that's the point of, again, some strategy sessions we have over the next few months to sort of map out a way ahead for sewer. And there's a variety of options that are out there to sort of address that. But for the time being, again, sewer is going to continue to experience challenges. Water will continue to be revenue positive.
Thank you.
Thank you. So for that, somebody would like to introduce this 2303 for us to vote on here tonight.
Move to introduce ordinance number 2023-3.
2303, sir.
What?
2303.
2023-03 ordinance, North Pole amending Title 13 Public Service Utilities rates for 2023.
Second.
So a motion to introduce ordinance 2303 made by Anton and seconded by Jacobson. And seeing there's no one here for public testimony, Madam Clerk, do we need to have more discussion on this? Are we satisfied with what's been presented? Seeing no more discussion necessary, call the question, please.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Is anyone here to change their vote? I don't see anyone. So that is now advanced to the next session in the second reading in January. Did Ms. Fogarty take off or something here? Did she? Okay, well, so we'll go ahead and introduce it anyhow. Resolution 23-01 is a resolution of the North Pole City Council to change the effective date of the 2023 maximum sales tax rate increase that you can find up here on page 22. And even though it says February 1st here, I'll say this. When we passed this back on December 12th, I mentioned before I went home that we would have to get on top of this to get it out to the citizens and the people that own businesses in time to know about it. And so I'm a little bit distressed that we said that on December 12th, but the word didn't get out to even put anything out till December 27th. So there was not enough time. And I'm beginning to believe that if we're going to do our rates for our water and sewer on March 1st, we should consider this to be effective March 1st, because it takes time to put these things out. They have to go to the mail. They go at the same time we get renewals for our business licenses. Some businesses, some of them are going to get it by email, some are going to get it by snail mail. And so I would imagine that if we say March the 1st and we get it out the door by the middle of this month, that gives them 45 days to be prepared for it. And if there's any questions that need to be answered from anyone who wonders about it, we'll be able to have ample time to do it. Whereas I'm not sure we'll have ample time, once again, given what today's date is, and by the time it gets out, how much little time people would have to respond to it. That's the only thing. And I'm basing that on historic. I'm basing it on when we went from 5 to 5.5%, the maximum sales tax went from, I want to say $8 to $10 to $11. Now we're going to $16.50. So that's what I would like to say about it. So that would be my input to change the date effective March 1st, same time that we are moving on the water sewer rates. And that's about as much. And Madam Tricia, if you want to talk to this, please. Does that give you adequate time? If we change it to March 1st?
Yeah, I only put February 1st because we talked about it last week and you said February 1st.
Yeah, but the more I looked at it,
Okay.
yeah, well, that's not, okay, but I'm asking you to be proactive here a minute with me.
Okay,
If we move it to March 1st, does that give you enough time?
yeah, we're ready to roll right now.
You're ready to roll?
Yeah.
Because I just don't think, if you put it out the door at midnight tonight, by the time people got it and all,
Not gonna make it to midnight tonight, but I will get it.
you know
out in
what
the
I'm
morning.
trying to say?
Yeah,
I'm trying to say,
yeah.
in a best case scenario, if we were to do that, there will be people who won't have gotten the message. You may have to do, for some people, you'll get return to sender and all
Right,
that. You know
for
how
sure.
that goes.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And we have to maybe search some people down. Some people, we can just email them, you know, some
Right.
people are electronic and how they do stuff with us,
Mhm.
but not everyone is it? How many do we have to reach out to?
Probably about 300 or 400 people.
There you go. See where I'm going, council. So would March 1st be more?
Yeah, that'll give them time to do what they need to do and
Right.
they'll have plenty of notice.
Thank you. Okay. So that's how I would amend this to say March 1st. And I'll leave that for someone if they want to. Anything else to ask Tricia while we have her? Mrs. Welch?
Guess we need to introduce it.
Yeah, I'm not going to introduce you yet. I'm just trying to say in its current format, I'm just saying what I, as the mayor, would think that would be important. That I want Tricia to tell you, when you got 300 or 400 people you have to go to, even I can't imagine the logistics of getting in touch with that many people. Yeah.
So what about our remote sellers? Is that also up to us to, I mean, we're supposed to send it to the people from AML, right? And they,
Right, yeah,
they're
that was on
supposed
our
to-
list to email to them. So we get together a list of people that we should notify right away. And so that was one of the top people on our email list, along with fuel companies, electric company. Those are the folks that we feel like are gonna run into the cap. You know, sometimes everyone will, but these are the people that probably do every single delivery. They're gonna run into the cap.
And so I will remind the council that when we were contemplating this on December 12th, we said we could come back and revisit the caps for our utilities, whether we're talking about oil delivery or whatever. So we'll have time to do that too, if we so desire. Is that correct?
You-
Oil deliveries and electricity and things like that. If we want to say the maximum tax you could pay is say $12.50 a month versus $16.50, that would be $150 a year as an example. We could do that. We said we would revisit that.
I think you're going to be making the business community irate with these fluctuating fees. It was your suggestion to raise the cap to 16.5.
No, it was not my suggestion. Mine was to raise it to $15, sir. Mine was to go up to $300.
My motion was to keep the sales tax at the current rate, and you made a motion to increase the cap.
That is true. That is true. But
So
my original scheme for our first reading was to be $300 maximum amount, because we haven't moved that in 25 years, and to keep it and to take it to 5%, which would be $15. That
Right.
was my original.
But we now have the existing current rate. We either
Listen,
raise the cap to a set rate and don't mess with it the rest of 2023, or we remove it and it stays at what it is. But I don't think we should come back in a few months and say, oh, by the way, now oil companies, we're going to change you to a different cap. That's not going to work.
Well,
I don't-
I'll ask you this. I'll ask you this. This is for discussion. This is just for discussion. And I'll remind you, at a time when you were mayor, that we actually did something for oil, for heating oil. You remember that in 06,
Right.
because heating oil started to go through the roof. And I asked you, why would we do that for just oil? Why will we not do the same?
Point of
thing for-
information.
Yes.
I think we are discussing before we have
Oh,
introduced.
yeah,
it.
that's true, but I'm just trying to say for the sake of what we're doing here. Okay, so that's a possibility, you know, that we said we could go down that process later. However, I would agree that some people would say in business, where are we at with this, you know? So. But so my whole idea was a $15 maximum tax. That's all I want to say. Thank you. So is there anyone, there's no one here for public comments, so that portion is closed. So Madam Clerk, can we have someone call to
Move to,
introduce this?
move to adopt resolution 2301.
Second.
Move to amend resolution 2001 to the effective date of the maximum sales tax rate to March 1st, 2023 instead of February 1st, 2023.
Second.
Second.
So we have it here. I think that was Jacobson made the
Mrs. Clack.
motion and Clack made the second. Thank you. Thank you. So with all that in mind, now can we discuss it? Where should we go with this? We don't have to go any further than this. We can leave it where it is. How do you think the overall business is going to be, or the citizens are going to be about that maximum tax? In the big scheme of things, it's going to give us what we might need in reserve. It was very hard, very seriously hard. What we discussed earlier tonight that we can't discuss because it was an executive session, but we can discuss how we reacted to snow removal, that we could have possibly had $630,000 for that snow removal. That was something that was part of the record, and where was that coming from? And who's to say that's not going to happen again? Because we were never really prepared to have the reserves for that. If we have some sort of abundance there, how do we earmark it for the future? Is what I want to ask. What do we do with it? That's all I'm asking. We may very well, because the way I put it together, it wasn't by happenstance that I figured that we would have a very slight surplus at the maximum of $15 of sales tax. 16.5 may, in my best estimate, give us about 165,000 more of a surplus. So how do we put that to use?
So Mayor, do we
Yes.
have in our financial policies a set minimum fund balance reserve? I know other municipalities, they follow the recommendation of accounting to have anywhere from 8 to 12% of their operational budget in reserve.
Yes,
City of Fairbanks has about $12 million in their fund balance reserve for their budget in case there was some catastrophic event that interrupted their flow of revenues. So what's the status of our fund balance?
thank you. My status when I came on board was that we would have at least a year's worth. So if we have an $8.38 million budget, do we have 8.38 million in the fund reserve as an example for this year? There was a time where nobody could even conceive of the 2020 to 2021, those 2 years of this pandemic and what that did to us, but we somehow survived it. The recommendation that had come when I was a deputy mayor many years ago is that we only have 6 months in reserve, and I think that's too slim. So I'm always trying to have at least a year in reserve. And that gives us between $8 and $9 million. I'd ask Tricia, do you know how much we have in reserve at this point? Remember how much is in the envelope and all that? Please speak into the microphone just so we can get it recorded, please. Thank you.
So we have over 6 million in AML investment and probably about 4 million in the bank.
So we have more than what we're budgeting for.
Right.
Slightly more, maybe $1.5 million more. It's maybe $10 million, correct?
Close to that.
Close to 10 million.
That's
So
good.
that's pretty much where I've always tried to be. And you know, that's a good place to be. According to all the people that have ever told me that 6 months would be enough. I don't think 6 months is ever enough. Catastrophically, we could have wiped that out with if any of these other folks had been selected to bid on this, we could have gone anywhere from 800 to $1.2 million to just remove snow. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
That's the first time that I've ever seen us do that.
I know. It's first, I mean, I've only lived here 23 years and I never saw anything like it.
Right.
And I might never again. So thank you.
Call the question?
So we're going to call the question for this resolution. See, now we've already passed the budget. I'm just trying to give us food for thought in the future. Madam Clerk, call the question.
So question real quick about the call to question. It's the amended
Amendment.
March 1st.
Yeah, to March 1st is
Okay.
all it is. Maximum sales tax will go to March 1st and I'll expect that the accounting department will get the word out to our business owners.
Oh,
Yeah,
According to, you were ready to go for February 1st, right? Yeah,
Yeah, just-
so,
don't think we can go to that many people in less than 30 days.
oh, but
Huh?
you asked her to do February 1st, and so they got balls to the wall.
Kind of asked her that, well, excuse me,
So-
you know, I hear what you're saying, but that's not that, well, let me put it this way. I'll just refer, you may not have been in here when I said it. But, you know, to go from the accounting department to the clerk on December 27th and say, put that out for February.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, you know
That's
what
a
I'm
lot of-
saying.
that's a tall
January
order.
1st. It doesn't work that way. So I'm just wanting to make sure that we have time in case we get return to sender or someone said they never got the email. That we give everybody a fair chance.
Point of order, the questions have been called.
Yeah, the question's been called.
Okay.
Thank you for that point. Madam Clerk, call the question.
Okay, so on the amendment, changing it to March 1st, Mrs. Clack,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, does anyone wish to change? And let me ask you something too, now that you've got that recorded. Mr. Skips, for your own edification, when someone asks, when a person asks, but what is the thing that we're asking to consider? Okay, even if there was a point of order called, I mean, even if we've.
Oh,
already
I
called it-
understand that.
even
And
if
he
we
asked,
called it-
he asked and you answered.
Yeah,
We didn't need any more discussion
Yeah.
on it.
that's right. But he wanted to know, so I
And I
want to,
understand.
I want to make sure.
He was
he
asked and answered.
Yeah, I
That's
want to
all
make
was
sure he
saying.
was clear on it, what we were doing. Thank you. So what's next?
Call the question on the amended.
Yeah, on the amendment now.
Okay, Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Skips.
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mrs. Clack,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
yes.
Mr. Welch,
Yes,
sorry, Mayor Welch.
yeah, thank you for that. Wonderful. So does anyone want to change that? I don't see any changes in that. So that ordinance now, or that resolution, 23-01 now passes. So I'll expect to stay in touch with the accounting department and keep up with how that goes. That gives people plenty of time to get back to us too. What's next for council comments? Who's first, madam?
Mrs. Clack, so she can get back to her
Back to her. cruise.
vacation.
Mhm.
Thank you all. I hope you had a nice new year. I enjoyed the meeting and have a nice evening.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Keller.
Just real short, Happy New Year. Well, it's 2023. Let's make it the best year yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Welch.
Yeah, just same thing. Happy New Year's to everybody. It's nice to get back to school today. It was wild pandemonium trying to get all the parents to park or not park and drop their children off. So if you're listening out there and you're going to your different schools to drop your children off, I know it's cold out there, but please be courteous to the other people who are in line and try not to drop off in third lane or something that can endanger your children. It is really important that you follow directions of the staff that are trying to maybe direct traffic out there. So from that point of view, let's have the greatest new year that we can have, and that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Skips.
Yes. Happy New Year. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson.
A Happy New Year also. I've been in discussion with Senator Gary Wilkin. He's come before the council, I think, and provided this book on the Mancho mine proposal. He's asked for their group to be able to come back before within the next several city council meetings. So they would like to come and do an update presentation on that. Their goal is, of course, to educate us about the concerns with the transportation of the ore from the Mancho mine from Toke on the Richardson Highway, up the Steese Highway. With us being right in the middle of the Richardson Highway, any sort of closure of this critical corridor will impact fire service, ambulance service, law enforcement, freight, oil. And I'm not concerned so much about the drivers of the ore trucks. I'm more concerned about the other motorists who I see daily making poor and dangerous driving decisions now. And I can only anticipate what it's going to be like when these large trucks are creating whiteout conditions by just their sheer wind drafts that they create driving down the road when there's loose snow out there. So, Mayor, I would ask that you work with the clerk to schedule a time for Senator Gary Wilkins' group to come before the council, perhaps at 6 p.m. Either at our January 17th meeting or February 6th meeting, whatever
Well,
works for you, or even the,
did he give us one after that by chance?
we can go farther into February if that would work. for your
Yeah, I'm
schedule.
just curious for the reason that I know we're gonna have a long night on February 6th because Mr. Wilson's coming back and so and I want to have enough time to see. I will speak to my comments about this too, if you don't mind. I won't speak to them over top of your comments
Yeah,
unless you want me to, but I don't want to. I'll tell you guys something here in a minute about that because I'm on the same page as
I think if we
Gary
want to move it to the February 21st
Yeah.
meeting, that
Oh, yeah.
I think
I
their
think that'd
group
be
is open to
perfect.
that. I
Yeah.
just wanted to bring it to your attention that they're reaching out, and I said I would bring it up at our council meeting tonight for
Okay.
scheduling. So yeah, the 21st February, is fine with me.
Fantastic.
So will you reach out to him or?
I'll reach out to Gary. I know
Okay.
Gary. You saw him here when he was here with the interior gas utility. You
Right.
saw him sitting
That's
there.
when
Yeah,
we started
I
the
know how to call him.
conversation.
I'll call him up.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, great. So, well, just to go right from that, that would not have been my primary concern, but now that you mentioned, I will say I'm on a policy board. And we were trying to get what's called a bifurcated route, means two different forks. We wanted one of the routes to say, for those of us who live here in the more urban areas, we wanted to have a certain thing. And then for those in the rural areas, that they would have a committee too. That was on the policy board for the FAST policy. And I thought that was important to do that. And, but the chair did not. And somehow, regardless of what Mayor Matherly wanted, what I wanted, it just didn't pass. As a matter of fact, the newspaper got the story wrong just by making one word wrong. And it wasn't the intent. And what I said is to the chair, and if y'all don't know this, the chair is this year is the current Bryce Ward, the FNSP, and he said there's nothing that requires them. That was his position. There's nothing that requires them to have anything in process. And my retort to that was there was nothing requiring anybody to have stuff for PM 2.5 at one point. There was nothing that required us to have PFAS, PFOA stuff at one point. And look at who gets suffered from this. And those of us who've ever been up and down when we were hauling stuff along that same route from Northway in 2001, all the way to here to Moose Creek. And I saw near death several times. I had to travel that every 8 days. I saw it coming and going. And I am convinced that this is going to be an error to have 192 trucks a day running up and down this, that we have to find a better route. And we shouldn't be wearing out our roads and the safety, but there is a genuine concern. I could just see a motor coach full of tourists or whatever just becoming victims in this, but I would hope it wouldn't go to that far. But you know, hope is not a strategy. Hope is a virtue. And so I would really appreciate it if we come up with something that says, okay, I have gone and looked and looked and looked, but here we tried to get a good policy going inside of FAST and we couldn't get it. So maybe there's going to be another method. Maybe we as a city can now say, we don't want this running up and down in our city. And it's all it'll take. It's all it'll take is say, we're not going to have this running up and down in our city. What is it? Every 7.5 minutes or so, there's a truck come flying by.
7 or 12,
It's like something crazy like
still
that.
crazy.
Yeah, and it could very well increase the dangers. So with that said, here's what I do want to talk about. Our 70th birthday is coming up on the 16th. Now, Benny Lynn talked with me and he said he would be willing to help us have a birthday party, but not on the 16th, because he comes back from where he's at on holiday on the 17th. Do we want to have a city birthday party that our citizens can enjoy? And Benny would help us do it. And we would need help from us, ourselves, and from certain citizens. I would think the North Pole Community Chamber of Commerce could help us with that. So if that's what we can do, I'll explore that, try to have an answer for you when we come back in the second meeting here in January. The last thing I would say is North Pole Community Chamber of Commerce is doing more and more than they've ever done before. And they have recognized 3 people for honors and awards the last meeting they had. They recognized Matt Gavora as their businessman of the year, and their president of North Pole Community Chamber, Misty Posacani, as their volunteer of the year. And Mr. Skips, did you know they recognize your wife? So you probably know that as a citizen volunteer of the year, right? So with that in mind, he asked me if I would do a proclamation. And the only reason I haven't replied yet was we weren't part of the process of how they chose. I don't know what criteria they used. Should we do a proclamation on that? So if you think so, get back to me. You don't have to tell me tonight, but I would think maybe in the future, they'll come and give us an updated report from time to time. And if they want us to be on a committee with them, maybe that's a good way for us to start recognizing our businesses and the people that are trying to make Community Chamber of Commerce work and recognize citizens that do an outstanding job. So that takes us to item 14.
Mayor, I have
Yeah,
a quick
sir.
question. I'm confused about what you asked us to do about the celebration.
Yeah,
So-
should we have a celebration somewhere? We can't have it on the day of.
Right.
Should we have one sometime in, somewhere between February or March or something like?
Okay,
for 70th birthday.
that clarification, helps
Yeah.
because it's like, we're meeting on the 17th.
Yeah,
so
I
how can
don't,
we-
no. Oh, no, he doesn't come back. No. He doesn't come back to the 17th. So he was not even there to confer with on how to do it. Should we do one at all? Should we do it around spring break? Whenever we should do it, should we?
I think it'd be appropriate and let's pick a date. Next time we meet, that makes sense for everybody. Our next meeting is gonna be on a Tuesday, correct?
Yes, because of Martin Luther King. That's right.
So
Yeah.
maybe we'll come back with some ideas of possible dates to celebrate. We've got a whole year to celebrate.
Yeah, we could do it April, May. I don't know. I don't know when we should do it, but I think we should, and invite other communities to come here, and we could do it when the legislature's out if we wanted to. Well, there's a lot of things. And speaking of which, there's a going away for our legislative delegation at the Hotel North Pole this Saturday,
Oh,
you know,
and Dr. Juno.
send off to Juneau on a one-way ticket. All right, is that motion to adjourn? Let's call it adjourned at 8:41. Thank you.
Nice seeing your wife.
Yeah.
Nice to-